Blocks 3 comes with greatly enhanced security features. To start with, all user actions are authorized using a system of role-based permissions. A role is attached to each user under Manage Users. So we have the users here, and you can see we have the usual admin user, and then I've added a couple of other users here. I made the name of the user the same as its roles. You can see the user named editor has the editor role, and the manager user has the manager role. And you can see that the roles are in a strict hierarchy, so that roles higher up on the list have all the capabilities of roles further down the list, and then plus then its own capabilities. You can learn more about these things in the manual. Let's see if I can bring up that page. That's in chapter 10 of the manual. Here you have a brief overview of the built-in roles. And as I said, roles higher up on the list have all the capabilities of those further down, and there is a table here that shows you all the standard capabilities of each role and how they relate to each other. So this is a good place to refer to if you want to learn more about the basic restrictions of roles. So let's see a few other examples of where you can use roles in addition to those built-in restrictions. For example, you can hide certain blocks from users based on their role. So if we go into this block here, we could choose to show this role to users only of at least manager or creator role. So if we set this over to manager, then you need to have the role manager or higher, which means manager or admin, or if you set it to creator, you need to have one of these three roles in order to see this block. In addition to doing that on the block level itself, you can do it on the group level. So this is in the portrait templates group. So if we switch over to that group and then we click this one, you can say that I need to be at least a creator in order to see this block. So any user below down here, such as the editor user, won't be able to see any of the blocks inside the portrait templates group. Likewise, you can set a minimum role required to control a spot. So if I go into this spot, switch to advanced, then I can set it so the minimum role needed in order to control this spot will be manager. This panel is set up to be a management control panel, as you can see the name implies here, so it shouldn't really be available for other users, either for controlling it or for dragging blocks to it, or any action like that. So now with this one set to manager, and let's see the group we set to creator. So if we now switch over to the editor role, then we shouldn't be able to see these blocks, and we shouldn't see this spot over here. So let's switch over to to the editor user. Editor, log in, and then you can see this is gone. And if we switch back to all groups, we can see that the portrait blocks, the blocks in the portrait group are gone, and it's also hidden on the menu here. So that's one way of restricting what can be accessed or controlled by users depending on their role. The role can also be used to limit what can be done with managed objects. Now, this user doesn't even have access to the manage functionality, so we need to switch back to at least the manager user here. But I switch back to admin, which has all the access rights in blocks. So we can now go over to manage, And we can likewise control here using these little padlocks here for each category of devices who can access them. So for example, if you want to limit who can control watch-out clusters, which would probably make sense to limit, you could say that you need to be at least a staff member to be able to control that. Likewise for all these other features of blocks, who can control relay outputs and so on. And indeed, even further down, if you add, let's add a Modbus module here. Like this, and we add some channels to it, like this. You can see that I also have this little padlock on both the entire device as well as each channel. So you can either set the restriction for all Modbus units here, or you can set it for this Modbus device here. For example, let's say this one needs to be at least staff. But then you can further go in and override it, so you can have maybe this output is a power control for the entire building, and you want this relay to only be accessed by a manager. Then you can set that like this, so then you have overridden. You can see this little plus sign here showing you that this has a more stringent role requirement than what's inherited from this level, and this level is further inherited from here. Now I've overridden it here. As you can see, that there is a different icon here. It's unlocked on the topmost level. Then there is a lock set to staff here, and then it's further overridden down here. You can see this one, if we look at that one, that says inherited, so it inherits the roles set on the level above, which is staff in this case. Finally, there is also the ability to limit access to certain panels or certain spots, actually. So we have this mobile spot that we want to use for management functionality, and I have another browser window open behind here that shows that control panel, and let's say it contains a big dangerous button that just turns off everything in the entire building, and you want to make sure that nobody can access this that doesn't have any business doing so. So let's switch that over. Right now this can just be brought up by any user, but that happens to know the URL. But if I switch this so that I enable role required to use spot to actually use and access this from a mobile device or from any other spot at all, then I set this one over to say that this has to be at least manager. And then when I do so, you can see it immediately shows a login window here. So I must know that I log in as the username manager and with the corresponding password. And then if I log in, I don't want to save that, then you get access to the panel. So that provides an extra layer of security for spots, mobile spots or display spots, where you have control functionality that you want to limit to users with certain roles.